Hello, Sadhnaji. Yeah. So I think it's enough to say good evening. Okay, yeah, Deepa is here. Yeah, so good morning and good evening. Welcome to this week's Circle of Harmony. And we are continuing from our discussion last week that we started, and the topic being, what am I choosing? And it wasn't just about, our choices in general, but it was more about what I'm choosing to identify with. Like with my everyday, when I am given choices to be big, am I choosing the petty? And, very small things we do that either, take us towards more peace, more harmony, or more ill will, even inner ill will, inner disharmony, some bitterness that makes us small. So, what am I identifying with? So that's what we started with. We had a beautiful session last week. And so, yes, just continuing with that today. So, this was the saying, the quotation that was discussed, that was on the poster. And we didn't get to discuss it last time, but we can do it today. So, any questions, any reflections? I think only Deepa was there maybe last time. I think, yeah, Deepa was there last time. So, if there's anything about the topic, please do unmute and share. Okay. So, the quote says, "We choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them." If anybody is comfortable, and ideally all of us, if we would like to just reflect on this, like what does it mean to me? How do I interpret it? Maybe we can learn from each other's interpretations. Yes, Ardhaji.
Yeah, Taru, just a second. I'll just go inside the room and.
Yeah. So this is by Khalil Gibran. We choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. It's very interesting. I remember the first time I read it. Like, why would I choose my sorrow? And then one can see it so clearly now.
Yeah, Taru, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So this last week I couldn't attend, but when I saw this today morning, I was so happy. And I have a question here, Taru. See, each time when we go to Pondicherry, we have the habit of, at least me, I will see how I was before the previous visit and how am I now. Because once we go there we forget ourselves, we just surrender everything to the mother and we want to change. And each time at least a bit we try to change, but we don't know how far we are uh, succeeding in that. But each time when we discuss, Meera, myself, and my husband, when we discuss about that, I always feel that, some improvement. This defect I have in me. And he will always smile. He asks me, you will never be happy with yourself, and each time you will find out something to be unhappy. Then this question is always with me now. Am I not happy with myself? See, improving, or you want to change yourself is good. That is what we all need, and we are trying to do our level best. But this question is always there. So I think this topic resonates with what my feeling. Yeah. I don't know how to communicate, but something I'm able to feel. I'm not happy with myself. And yesterday, something happened. We went to our native place. We went to our temple and we had to do something. Then while sitting in the temple itself, I was feeling very, very uncomfortable. And yesterday night we came back. Today when I was sitting with the mother, and usually we write, whatever. Before I was writing every day, but now at least if something comes like this and disturbs me, I will write. Today when I was writing, I could find out, something was telling me, you are thinking that you are changing, but ultimately inside you are the same word I have written. So there is a lot more to work in me. But what I have done is not even this much. That is what I was feeling. But, I was sad. Immediately I remember, see, so many disciples asked the mother the same question. Mother, am I improving? Am I proceeding forward in this sadhana? Mother always smiles and, gave a reply to each according to their nature. But even I was feeling that. I could never be happy, I don't know what is that. Maybe I'm not choosing, as the topic says, I'm not choosing to be happy.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, thank you for the detailed explanation. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's so nice when we are able to verbalize these things, because it's like, every story is us. So I think it's very, it doesn't have a simple answer, yet, all answers are simple. See, if there is I mean, just sharing from my experience, that if I feel I'm not doing enough, and if that realization, that whatever, that discovery, that feeling, if it's helping me to progress more, push me towards doing more, then I would say it's a good thing. But if it's causing despair in me, that what am I doing, I go down, then I know, okay, it's just another ego trap. It doesn't want me to do anything, and it wants me to pull, it wants to pull me down, and then I just away from that. So basically, how again and again we are seeing the do not torment yourself child, right? You yourself said you've heard it 3 times. So,
Yeah.
Sri Aurobindo says that anything, just not thinking about things that disturb you is the silencing of the mind.
Yeah.
Mother says, do not despair, my child, right? Like again and again, she says that if you see you're sad, know that you are being insincere. Because what in me becomes sad, right? And
That is
why?
what
Yeah.
I'm asking myself. What in me is making me, feeling that you are not enough? This is not, see, everyone knows that this is not enough. We have to progress, but still, this what in me, I don't know whether it is ego, should be ego only.
The best thing is not to kind of question it, or, have this conversation with it. Just, hi, like mother says, just drop it. Just drop it. Just drop it. And just have a smile on your face and see, okay, if I'm not doing enough, what can I do now, right? So either I can sit and say, oh, what have I been doing? What do I do? Right? Like I can go into that lower space, or I can go into that higher space. Can all even if till now everything has been wasted, which is not a possibility, but let's, for the sake of argument, say, okay, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years wasted, but still I'm breathing, right?
Yeah,
So then
true.
what do I do now, right? Like a lot of times I've seen in myself that, we repent things we have done.
Mm.
And then we keep repenting that, oh, we did this. So first we did something which was not right. One. Then we spent 10 years, 20 years repenting what we have done. So not only have I done something wrong, I've spent 20 years repenting that I've done something wrong. I made that decision which was wrong. It took me somewhere else. But now, after 20 years, one day I would realize that, array, I can now start doing what is right, right? So I wasted 20 years. The moment I realized, okay, this was wrong, the thing would be, okay, what is right then? Right? Let me do the right. But somehow that's not how we work, right? We like to sit and brood and criticize
Yeah.
and feel guilty, feel victim. Those are all the dramas of life that we get stuck in on with. But then when we see it now, when we see any time we see we are taking a dip down, it's like, okay, sometimes you can control it, sometimes you can't, but there's no argument with it. The only way is, okay, just dropping it and saying, okay, even if one can't drop it, one can feel, right? That, okay, see, this is
Yeah.
what I'm doing again. Help me, right? Like offer it, ask for help. And because usually we just entertain it and then it sits more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say that just saying that I want to progress does not mean you're not happy. So we shouldn't also just hear anything that anybody is saying. Not that they would not mean it in a good way. I mean, maybe they genuinely felt that, but that doesn't make it right. I mean, we don't know,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So that is also there. You have faith in yourself that, yes, I am progressing. And of course, with the sharings that you share, that how you were able to see, how you could do this, like, how can you even say you are not, right? And yet, this is true. It's like before we get on this path, we feel that, oh, we are so right? We got everything right. We are intelligent. We are this. But then, how Rumi says that the further I go, the more I see how far I am. So we all realize this, that, oh my God. And that really helps us in that grounding, in that clearing of, those forests that we have built around ourselves and become small. So that, and so that we can ask for grace that help me. Otherwise, being big, we can't really ask. So it might sound like a wordplay, but it really isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as soon as I finished writing, I felt very, light. I was, as if I have surrendered everything. Whatever was going inside me yesterday whole day, I never thought I'll be able to put it in words. But when I started writing, it came. I was so happy with that itself. At least, I'm able to express it to the mother.
Yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful topic. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Sadhji. So, Sadhji, the question was that quote that we chose, your interpretation, if any reflections on that, like what does this mean? So that was what I had requested also to share if you want to say something about it before you unmute. But if you don't want to, it's absolutely fine.
We choose our joys and sorrows long before to experience them. This is what I was trying to connect. Maybe I was not ready to be happy. That is what, my husband always tells me, you don't want to be happy. You want to find some fault with yourself. So maybe that is right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me think it over.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Thank you, Tari. Thank you.
Thank you. So anybody else, any reflections on this?
Yeah, Taru, is it about aspiring? Like if I aspire to be happy, then eventually I will be happy, or if I aspire to be sad, eventually it will lead me to sadness. Like sometimes we, even if we are not ill, we start thinking or feeling that we are unwell, and eventually we become unwell. And sometimes, even if the thought comes that I'm unwell, but then we just shun it aside and we just tell ourselves, no, everything is fine. And eventually we see that everything is fine. So, is it about attracting the right energy or aspiring about the right thing?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, we are just reflecting, right? That how we could see it, how we can perceive it, so that we can all open our horizons a little bit more, broaden them. So, aspiration could be it. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Anything else you would want to share? Or, yeah, so we can take. So, I'll just share this again.
Should I share my example? Then it will make it easier.
Yeah, Deepa, you were saying something?
Yeah. Yeah. Should I share an example so then it becomes a little maybe
Absolutely. We love examples and stories.
from what I understand, this is that I think we go with preconceived notions and ideas, right? Instead of living in the present. So, I mean, the things that really strike me from my own life is it is so strange, but we always have this impression that weekends and holidays are like you're always looking forward to, they're going to bring so much happiness and joy in your life, and invariably I feel like that those are the moments which actually pull me down, and the only reason being that I've gone with this preconceived notion that this is going to be my happy time. Like, of all 7 days in the week, there are only 2 days that I look forward to, and the other 5 days I just remove in monotony and drudgery, which is so sad, right? Which is like a major part of your week. You're just letting it pass by, like clock time. You wake up, you sleep, and there is nothing that energizes through the day. And then those expectations of those 5 days I try and fulfill in the remaining 2 days of the weekend. So I look forward to the Saturday and Sunday with this preconceived notion that this is going to compensate for all the remaining days' drudgery. And frankly, that expectation is offloaded on everybody else around me. So everybody has to come up to that point of my level of energy and wanting to go out and enjoy and have a good time. And slowly and steadily, this maturity or realization is coming that it shouldn't be that way. I should just take Saturday and Sunday as it comes. Or maybe I should kind of, make my weekdays as well a more meaningful time in terms of engaging in certain occupations or activities that add more meaning. In the sense, to elaborate more, I feel like, Saturday, Sunday, even if I can't do stuff that, I imagine I should be doing, like going out, or I should be happy enough to open a book and sit in the yard and read, or go by myself and, watch a beautiful sunset and come back. I think these preconceived notions and ideas, whether it is of happiness or sadness, like when I think about sadness, then, there is this relation that, I'm forced to visit in India when I go. And it doesn't bring me too much joy seeing them and visiting them because of whatever relationship dynamics. But, I always go there. But the prior 2 weeks of going there, I've already, like, it's brought my spirits down, my energies down. I'm imagining situations that will come up. I'm thinking about those past experiences of, pure torture with them. And what happens is it kind of, I'm not living in the present. I'm not giving an opportunity for a good moment to come by. So, I mean, tackling both ends of the spectrum of expecting happiness and also expecting sorrow, I think it kind of muddles your present experience. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Chetna or Sham, would you want to share something on this?
Yeah, Taru, allow me some time, okay? Maybe
Absolutely.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
take your
well,
time. You don't have to also. I was just, yeah, asking if there was something that was coming to you. Thank you, Sham. Yeah, Chetna, would you like to go ahead?
Uh, yes, Taru, I am also listening in today.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
yeah, well, Taru, like Deepa said, okay, that many times that our past experiences determine our course of action. So when we have gone through the topsy-turvy curvatures of life for too long, we don't take any big decision, okay? Mhm. Then we like to live a very cocooned kind of life. And means even if something is coming on a platter, we don't give way to it. For example, like that how I eschewed that 2 places in the Ivy League institution and I settled for that ISP Hyderabad, which I am going to start day after tomorrow. Although many people say that it was a foolish decision, but I don't know, Taru. I don't know, Taru. Like people, they all give me examples कि देखो यार अगर चाचा जी की ऑक्सफोर्ड नहीं गए होते तो वो इक्रिया के डायरेक्टर नहीं बनते एंड ऑल दैट और तुम्हें इतना अच्छा अपॉर्चुनिटी मिला एंड यू हैव द वेयर विथ ऑल ऑल्सो फिर भी तुम मतलब कि कुछ बड़ा नहीं सोच पाते हो एंड ऑल दैट
Sham, once a decision has been taken,
या दैट आई एम
है ना,
विथ दैट
this you should not even entertain. Like you can just, how if somebody says a joke, how we take it so lightly, right? It's just entertaining.
Yeah, I do say
It,
that I have I have
yeah.
given 1,000 thoughts before embarking on this
Hmm.
call, and once I have taken a call, I stand by it as one man,
Hmm.
and I do stand by it as one man.
Yeah, yeah. So you should not let yourself be disturbed by that. It's meaningless, absolutely meaningless. And there's no one answer, right? Like if somebody, Sacha ji, got through something and did something, that means nothing. Like it's zero. That was their journey. We don't know what your journey
Yeah,
is,
so
right?
what they had been through all this donkey years, we never know that.
I'm sorry, what?
What they had been through all this donkey
Yeah,
years, we
yeah,
never
yeah,
know.
yeah.
हम लोग
Absolutely.
केवल end result और initial result देखते हैं.
Hmm.
That is the big. Then like that only, Taru.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And maybe our life is like a what you call a control system में जैसे एक होता है ना open loop system and closed loop system, okay? So our life is very much like a closed loop system जहाँ पे कि एक फीडबैक लूप होता है और जब कोई भी हम फ्यूचर का कोई कुछ भी डिसाइड करते हैं तो जितने भी इवेंट्स हुए हैं फ्रॉम t is equal to from ti is equal to 1 to ti is equal to till now, we take the cumulative of all those experiences and then we decide. But it ain't that way. We should not give too much weight to that feedback loop system. We should look at every point of time as one individual thing or one unit of time. But all the accumulated experiences, many a times they have the habit of pulling us down, or many a times they inhibit our what you call exploration kind of thing and all that.
Yes, thank you, Sham.
So the feedback loop, we should try to curtail it. मीन्स हम लोग पूरा उसको काट तो नहीं सकते हैं बट वी कैन curtail it so that it doesn't impinges on our present and future. And like we do try to live in daytime compartments and in the present, but many times that past comes knocking on our door.
Yes, Sham. And this is what the topic is about, right? That When past comes knocking, when anything comes knocking, when we are being told this or that, what do I stick to? What do I believe? Do I let myself, fall down, or am I able to maintain myself? So what am I choosing? What am I sticking? What am I believing? Am I the devil or the God? Because whatever I choose, I will become. So, yeah.
There is no black and white answer to it. As per me, I may be wrong. Okay. But somewhere down the line, it does pull us down, but then we realize that to what extent is it pulling us down, and then we take a call on it.
Yeah.
And many times like that गालिब से ना that भटके तो वो थे जो घर से निकले ही नहीं थे, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember the entire that couplet.
Yeah, I
मंजिल
don't
मिल
either. Yeah, but yeah, the gist you were able to say on that was the
मंजिल
most
मिल जाएगी
important.
भटक करी सही भटके तो something like that. I don't
Ah.
remember the entire. I'm fumbling. I don't remember the entire thing. Okay.
Yeah. So, to just now move to a different tangent in general, it is being said again and again, again and again that, and most recently I heard it in some yoga sutras, that what we think, what we discuss, what we listen, what we talk about, what we are remembering, we become that. And in the Yoga Sutra, there was this phrase which said that when we are discussing God, we become God. When we are talking about God, we become God. We are God. So I have this choice, where I can go on into these tangents and definitions of my storylines, which we all saw, which we all live. But my storylines really make me limited, right? They just tell me I'm so small, and what did I do this right? What did I do wrong? What was the best for me? What could be the best for me? What am I being influenced by? I need to ask myself. What am I spreading? I need to ask myself, because every time I'm choosing to be small with these discussions, if we see patterns in us now, one thing is we didn't see, right? We don't see, like, say, let's say we start with Sardaji. Sardaji said that, okay, somebody said you don't want to be happy. And since then I'm thinking, is it true I don't want to be happy? So even if she was happy, since she has heard this maybe a week back, she's one, that has been the reason for her unhappiness. So as soon as she sees this, she can drop it. But we usually don't, but we can, and we must if we want to progress. And say Deepa was talking about the weekend, the weekday. Firstly, one thing I wanted to share on that was that a lot of times we have done certain things a certain way, but they are not true for us anymore. And yet, although we have stopped doing it, something in us still feels we are doing it. It's pretty crazy, but we must always update our system that, okay, it was true for me then. Is it true for me now? So if I'm seeing this thing again, like say the weekend, weekday example, I can stop right now. Decisions had to be made about joining a college. Months were spent in it, and now decided starting next, day before, day after today. And still, if today somebody says, oh, that was a wrong mistake, and people will say this for the next maybe 10 years, till they'll say, oh, this was the best decision, maybe. Who cares? You had to choose, you have chosen. And now it means nothing. It's just, It's gossip. It's just wasting time, energy, resources of myself and everybody if I entertain these ideas. And yet we entertain them because I think there's some weakness in us. There's something about, or a weakness and maybe an attraction towards the juices in these stories. We like to play victim, even though we might be victimizing others. And Deepa sharing, that was quite visible when she said that I wait for the weekend and I make sure everybody knows that I've been waiting, kind of. And if it doesn't go well, everybody has to pay. And it's not just her story, just using her name right now. So here when Khalil Gibran, he's saying, we choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. Among other things, what I saw when I read this was that, again, using an old example, that if I'm choosing to step up on a giant wheel, I know I'll be going up and I will be going down. But when I'm sitting, because when I sit, it's at the lowest point. 99.9% of us just see that, oh, I'll go up. I'm talking about life, really, not the giant wheel, but we are all just excited that we are going up. Oh, this person will give me this situation will give me this car will give me this education will give me this. And we see the up going curve, the ride that's going up. But there would be a few who can see the whole circle that, okay, this is what I'm going, this is taking me up and this is bringing me down. That thing that is taking me up will bring me down. There's no if and but about it. So we
Sorry.
choose. Yes, Ardhaji?
Taru, can you please say it again? When we sit in the giant wheel, we are not in the present. That's something you made a statement. Can you please repeat it again?
Yes, absolutely. What I said was that when I'm stepping into a giant wheel, on that chair of whatever that thing it's called, it's at the lowest point, right? The only way from there is up. So most of us, we just see what that thing is giving us right away. A giant wheel we see is taking us up. We are very happy when we are going up, and a lot of us start crying when we are going down in life, right? But if we can get the capability, the calmness, the stillness, the purity of our intellect to see that the thing that takes us up also will bring us down, this will help us in seeing that, how we are choosing our joys and sorrows. So anytime I'm choosing an experience, I'm choosing someone, I'm deciding something, I'm seeing where this is taking me if I have that clarity, if I have that stillness. So I'm choosing my joys and sorrows long before I experience them. When we are experiencing, then to we know. And then we say that, oh yeah, uske saath ye ho gaya, uske baad wo ho gaya. But we don't realize the moment when we said yes to this or no to that. We, how it's like, what are those called, कि जो blocks रखते हैं और वो जो effect होता है, it would go down, it would hit it ultimately. We are not able to make that tie. So now every day, if we are choosing big, it will help us stay light, stay simple, become more and more godlike. Yes, Deepa?
I think it is similar to the conversation that we had in yesterday in Monika's session, during the session, where Monika said that if you get flown by praise, then you also will get down by criticism. And which you said that if the giant wheel takes you up, and you feel happy about it, you're also going to feel sad when you come down in life. So that's very similar to our responses to praise and criticism. So that is what comes to my mind in terms of the continuity from yesterday's session to today's. That we have so many options, we have so many new experiences to take in, but for me, there's so much of the past that I carry, and I know it's time to shed. And just like how our body keeps shedding cells on a constant basis, so on a biological level it is happening, but we need to start doing that at a very mental and cognitive level as well.
Yeah, and especially when we are able to see, right? Like if you're not able to see, it's different. Like one can say that, what do I do, right? Then we feel lost. But if we are able to so clearly see and communicate it here, right? See, this is what I do. And yet after 2 months, I'll again say this is what I do. So then also this is a question that, that why are you doing that, right? Like, so there is a gap, right? Like there's a gap between our understanding, our acceptance, and our changing. We can see that gap. But if we are just, I don't know, more on the path of progress, if we actually want growth in life, if we want simplicity, we can speed up a little bit, right? We can, like Ritu was talking about, as aspiration. So we have so many different ways. Yeah.
Taru, do we like playing the victim card always?
No, not always, but a lot of times. The guilt card or the victim card, yes.
Maybe 70%? Or
I I can't give you that percentage. You can give it to yourself. But yeah, I mean, there is something there, a pleasure in that, right? That this happened to me. But you tell me who plays that card? Who in you would play that card?
if we all play that card in our own individual life, in our
Yeah.
own little and big ways. If I myself have played,
Yeah. So basically the
and we know that we
ego.
are playing yet Hmm.
Like we feel that ego is always just about the thing that says, oh, I am so much, right? But the one in me which sticks to victimhood, that too is ego, right? If I'm saying I'm big, that's ego. If I'm saying I'm small, that's ego. If I'm saying I'm guilty, that's ego. If I'm saying I was victimized, that's ego. Because this me is the ego, right? कि मेरे साथ हुआ. So if we can just see it again and again, again and again, it can help us in just stepping back a little bit. And then the same thing, the same events, everything, they lose that grip on us, right? They don't dictate us that much. Maybe from 100, they'll become 90, then one day 80, then one day 70. So the question is not what is the percentage of me doing that? The question is, yes, I do that. And my lower self does that. And I don't, when I see it next time, I can stop. Yes, please.
Yeah, Taru, regarding the victim thing, I think sometimes playing the victim card also heals us in the sense that let's say something terrible has happened in my life, and for some time I play the victim card, and I'm able to kind of protect myself from the pain maybe I'm going through mentally or physically. Like we get injured, and then after some time there's a layer which builds on it, and then when we are ready, that layer comes off. So that layer kind of helps us in healing. So similarly, if something really terrible happens, so if somebody's playing a victim card, then I think for a short while it's okay till the time the person is ready to face the reality again. So I think it's not that bad also to play the victim card, but then for a short while. Like today in the morning, I was looking at a plant, and that plant has that palm plant. It has big leaves. So sometimes when the leaves become brown, I had to try to take them off, pull them away so that they don't look bad. But then it's not a good thing to do, because under that leaf which is shedding, the new one is not really ready to come out yet. So it takes its own time under that brown rotten leaf for the new leaf to come. And if I pull it up before that, it kind of harms the plant. So who helps me in gardening, she told me that you should not do it because it hurts the plant. So I think that ways we keep holding on to those rotten leaves, although for some time holding on to them is okay, but then we don't want to drop them because we get into that habit of holding on to them.
Yeah, actually, that's the issue, right? And then that becomes a habit, and then that becomes my identification that I am that one, yeah, to which that thing happened. But so, like, I don't think I can understand this. I mean, I know what you're saying, and yet for healing, I don't know, quoting
You know, I
oneself, yeah.
I read that Alok Das book, although it's been quite some time, maybe 3 years when I read it. So in that it was mentioned that let's say somebody dies in the family. So the parents will be in a situation wherein they would not be able to actually bear that. So in that situation, God sends, I mean, another another soul which kind of bears it, so that the parents who are actually in that situation, who are not able to bear it, can just survive themselves. So they don't know that okay, there's something else which is taking all that pain. But then because it's too much, so there's this system which sometimes happens. If you remember, Taru, you also read that Alok Das book, Dead, Dying and Beyond. So that way, I think if something terrible happens, so for temporarily being in that state of being a victim kind of helps us to heal. So there's no, I mean, for a longer time, it's okay, but for a short while, till the time you are recovering, it's okay to be in that victim mode. That's my thinking.
What do you understand by being in the victim mode or playing the victim card? What is it? What are you calling this? Like you playing
Let's
it?
say
Yeah.
something terrible happens, and I keep telling myself that, oh, such a bad thing happened to me, such a bad thing happened to me. Whoever I meet, I tell that person such a bad thing happened to me. So I think for a short while, it helps me heal. It's a way in which probably I am helping myself heal. Just completely telling myself, okay, forget it, nothing bad has happened, and just move on. That would probably be just a superficial way of mending myself. But for it to absorb that such a thing has happened, it's okay to be in that victim mode.
You're saying that if I'm hurting, I have to be a victim to, I mean, being a victim, feeling that I'm victimized, that helps.
Because sometimes we just
No, no,
close
but
our
can't we
bodies.
heal without feeling the victim? Like,
No,
can't
I'm
we
saying
be
we
sad? Yeah,
can. Maybe
yeah.
somebody really, really, really strong, they can. But then most of the people, I think, are not that strong so as to take such a big, drastic change in their life in a way in which they don't feel bad. So during that transition process, being in the victim mode kind of gives you a layer under which you are healing.
Okay.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, yeah.
Are we getting confused between being a victim and feeling grief? So I think those are two different things. And yeah, there are stages of healing as well. When somebody dies, I think it is but obvious that people will grieve, especially the ones that are near and dear. You will question why this happened to me. It shouldn't have happened. And those are stages of healing. But playing the victim card is very different from this, I feel. I think you play the victim card when, you know, the event has passed, the grief is like, of course it's ongoing, but, you know, you kind of stretch it forever. You don't build your coping mechanisms. You don't build any, constructive strategies to deal with the loss. That for me is playing the victim card. So I'm not sure whether there is a confusion with this or Ritu is mentioning something else altogether that I have not grasped.
So one is playing,
when I-
yeah. So I would say one is playing the victim card, one is like actually genuinely feeling like a victim.
when you were talking, I could resonate with you. I also feel that it helps, especially when there's a incident which shakes you. So loss of a death close one, or something really big, or illness that comes, which is unable to, you're not able to accept. And I think it helps. I also feel it does for some time, because the idea that I'm a victim originates from our ego consciousness. So till the time ego is there, ego likes to be a victim and kind of feed on that, that energy from that we get from the victimhood. That's how ego operates. And that's why it needs attention and grasping, because I'm a victim and all of that. So till the time we are in the ego consciousness, to say that there'll be no victimhood at all would be quite courageous to say that, or would not be correct. Till time you have transcended it. Some people can do it if they realize the psychic, but in that sense, like for example, as you were talking about the loss of a death one, a loss of a loved one, when grief is overpowering, it does help to accept it. Because when you are saying that I am a victim, or this thing happened to me, or accepting it, because even in stages of grief in psychology, like Elizabeth Ross Kuber, who has done significant amount of grief, she also talks about 5 stages of grief, how you go through grief. There is self-denial, there is anger, there's bargaining, and finally the acceptance come. And I feel that, like from my personal experience, being that why did it happen to me gave me a gateway of acceptance that it did happen. Because for some time, you can't accept it. Your body is in such a, in such a flight and fight mode that you don't want to accept that this has happened to me. But when I identify that, oh, I'm a victim and something really terrible has happened to me, it gives me acceptance. But at the same time, what I would add, like when you were talking, is that if I really want to, transcend it, or if and some people stay with it, as Deepa was talking or Taru was talking, they would just cling to it and be a victim forever, for a long time. But people who are aspiring on the spiritual journey, resonate with the divine, at the same time they develop a witnessing consciousness, like as we're discussing, like for myself as well, that you keep seeing what's happening to you. So you're still being a victim, but there's a parallel consciousness which is looking at it, that okay, the victimhood is there, you're not doing anything with the victimhood, because that's helping you, and you're just looking at it. And then slowly and slowly you kind of understand, that you're not a victim. It's beyond it. It's a larger plan that you don't understand. And then the acceptance comes in a form of gratitude, that some people even can say that, oh, I had cancer, I'm so grateful to it. Or some people say, I lost my 12-year-old son, and I've heard them saying that I'm grateful because it's changed my life completely, my relationship with my other children, with my partner, with life in general. It's completely changed with that one loss. So that acceptance turns into gratitude. So I would definitely think it as a journey in what you said. Yeah.
This is beautiful what three of you shared, each one. And I agree with some points of each one because, like, when we face something which is not up to our liking, the first reaction is to feel like a victim, that this happened to me, and to feel like something wrong or unjust has happened to me and I am so good. And even if we don't talk about it to another person, that is the first reaction that we feel within ourselves. And yes, as you said, Nandini, this seems, yeah, this is the ego consciousness. So one thing that I do and that helps me when I'm feeling like that is journaling. I mean, journaling to the mother and writing all my feelings, whatever I'm feeling. And usually I don't go back and read it. I just journal it out because it helps me. Because if I talk about it to another person, what they do is they add energy to it. And then it keeps going around in circles. And so just journaling it helps me. And one thing I realized in these sharings is that it is important when something like that happens, it is important to see it, to accept those feelings as well, to see them, but not to wallow in them. So it is one phase. The first phase is to see them and to accept them and not to suppress them. Because the mind will say ki haan kuch nahi hua and all that, because that is also a conditioning we have learned from the environment, that we should not feel like a victim, we should not be a victim. But the heart and the emotions in that moment are feeling that, they are feeling hurt. So it is important also to accept that, not to suppress it. But at the same time, it is important that once you have seen it, not to continue wallowing in it. So give oneself some time to release these emotions in some way. So I do that with journaling. And then, as much as we have the ego consciousness, we also have the soul consciousness in us, with us. So as much as the ego is playing its role of making us feel like a victim, the soul is also playing its role. You know, after 2-3 days of the ego valuing, at least, and me journaling, what happens is the soul starts to take over. It starts to give its nudges. We will read a message somewhere that helps, resonates, and helps us move a little bit out of that ego towards the soul, to see the same thing with a new perspective. But it usually happens once the soul is done with, the ego is done with its valuing. That's when the soul, inch by inch, leads us to a newer perspective. We will read a message somewhere, or some friend will say something that resonates. Like that, the soul then starts to take over. And what I found very beautiful, sorry, I was just saying the last thing. What I found very meaningful in this sharing is that here is the choice. It is the same incident, but how we react to it. Do we react to it from the ego consciousness or from the soul consciousness? That is the choice that even that is the choice. That is how we choose our joy or our sorrow. And that is the choice that even Monica Di was last couple of sessions, that we choose that, whether it's that choice that we have to make, which whether to reveal the Godhead or to hide the Godhead. That is what, and that is what then defines our life. That's the key moment.
There was also I was listening to a very beautiful video by Rupert Spira, and somebody asked him about how to deal with the ego, and that sometimes this realization that I'm awareness is hard to maintain, and ego really takes over, and what to do. And he gave such a beautiful answer, very powerful, and he said that try doing things that how to say, he said like that transcend you, something which you feel that you cannot do, like something which makes you transcend your own boundary. And he says, because when we expand, when we try to do something which is beyond us, ego doesn't like it. Ego likes us to be in our comfort zone, into my little me thing. So if you try to do something which opens you, which transcends the boundary of of the limiting nature of our being, you will see that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to even deal with ego, and you'll see that kind of empowerment that you get. Each to their own. If you have a fear of heights, go do bungee jumping, or do something like that, and you'll see naturally there is a release of this limiting self of yours. And we all have our fears, we all have our things that we would like to limit. And so I found it really powerful as well, in that sense, that and especially if you're dealing with something that it's a difficult moment in life or something like that. I really found it helpful, that one of his talks. So yeah, just when Chetna was talking about journaling, it reminded me as well of the way that he suggests.
Yeah, so yeah, I feel a bit don't know where to go with this. I think we can end the session here today. If yeah, did somebody say anything? Yeah.
Yes, just one thing I remembered with the Nandini's sharing is this, yeah, to do something out of one's comfort zone. And it reminded me of this instant when I, as a teenager, so during my childhood, I was not very physically active, etc. And during my college days, I happened to go to this trip to Nainital, Sherwin Basham Nainital, the rock climbing trip. And it was my first trip ever. And so on that trip, for the first time, I did a lot of physical activity. And especially, rock climbing, boulder climbing, trek, all of that. And totally out of my comfort zone. And it kind of marked a turning point for me, because in some way what happened is as I was doing those physical activities, there was some kind of a release from as if from my cells. And I didn't realize it at that time when it was happening that something so magnificent was happening within me. But when I came back, what I realized that I was taking decisions like, emotional decisions, leadership decisions in a moment like that, like decisions that I had been contemplating for years, and I could not even imagine myself taking. I was taking in moments with confidence. I just said, oh, what happened to me? And I realized that experience of doing physical activities out of my comfort zone, that had translated to all levels of my being. So yeah, just
Yes, Chetna, thank you. That was really helpful. That how again it's like, identifying with the high, identifying, not even knowing that if I'm touching something beyond me in any way, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it does take me high in all areas. That's a very beautiful thing to see in oneself. Very validating also. Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, I think we'll end the session here. We will resume this next week, and yeah, staying with it more, maybe getting more clarity, and we'll take up more reflections next week. So thank you for joining in and thanking Grace for this opportunity. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.